And eventually, our father used his mortgage as collateral so we could get a loan to record our first album.
Oh, excellent.
And he
And you
lost everything. Just kidding.
Welcome to You Belong, the podcast where stories come to life, hosted by Pastor Nate. In each episode, we'll learn that every name has a story, and every story matters to God. So let's journey together and discover the stories that unite us all. This is You Belong.
All right. Well, I am so glad to have my new friend John with me. Well, John, why don't you just tell us a little bit of where you came from and where did you go?
Would love to. Thank you for calling me your friend. I don't know
Yes.
that we're at that point yet, but
No, we are.
that
We're
means a
we're
lot to me
we're best
that
friends right now.
you've like crossed that threshold. That's good. I'm honored to be your friend.
You're welcome. Join the club.
Well, I came from I'm a Canadian boy. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and then grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, all my formative years. Um, Grew up as kind of like a ministry kid. My dad was sort of an urban missionary. He worked with an ministry called Indian Life, which was an outreach to Native North American Canadians and a very sort of marginalized people group. And so and forgotten and a group that is just historically and generationally um, is cycles of poverty, and cycles of abuse, and just a lot of dark days. So my dad committed to that all his life. Seeing him in the trenches of ministry and caring for the least of these was pretty inspiring and moving to me as a kid. We lived in the urban core of Winnipeg. My mom worked at a Christian bookstore. My brother and I loved DC Talk and Delirious and
Yes.
who else? Michael W. Smith. All these legends of Christian music we grew up listening to.
What about
And
the Gaither?
really,
Some Gaithers in there? What? Get some Gaithers?
nah, man,
Man.
before my time. Come on, I'm not that old. Come
No,
on,
no,
Nate.
no. My mom loves the Gaithers, so I heard of Gaithers growing up all the time. So I assume everyone listens to Gaithers.
Right. Yeah. My dad was maybe more of a Larry Norman guy. I don't know. Anyways, very old school. But yeah, I feel like I fell in love with Jesus and met Jesus in a really tangible way through worship music. Worship leaders like Matt Redman, who else back in the day, Bob Face, all these guys that were writing songs that songs of worship, songs that felt like they held some sort of they wielded sort of the power of the Spirit, and when you sang these songs in the community, you felt the presence of God. And there was something about that. So my brother and I just started writing songs, started traveling around, playing at youth groups, playing at churches, asking anybody if we could come and sing cover songs in our like my late teens. My brother's 5 years older than me,
Oh,
so
yeah.
his name's Tim.
Yep.
He now does country music as Tim and the Glory Boys, but and we formed a band called Starfield. This is in the late 90s, in the 1900s, as my kids like to say.
Yes.
Ages ago. And eventually, our father used his mortgage as collateral so we could get a loan to record our first album.
Oh, excellent.
And he
And you-
lost everything. Just kidding. No, he didn't. We get it all back. But we ended up moving to Nashville, signed a record deal, spending most of my 20s and early 30s traveling all over the US and the world, writing songs for the church, seeing our songs travel the world and be life-giving to communities in their expressions of worship and unity, community, and praise to God. Such a huge honor. So that's like the most compressed version of my formative years that I could tell you. But
Yeah. So how long did you tour with Starfield? Like how many was in that group? It was you, your brother, and
yeah, it
two
was
other
really
guys?
just me and my brother.
Okay.
So it's kind of a revolving pass. Is that the right term? Guys kind of came and went over the years, but it was the two of us that wrote the songs.
All right.
The two of us that signed all the contracts, that made all the plans, and then we sort of just said, "Hey, we're a band," and had different guys fill those roles over the years. So essentially, we're like a duo that branded ourselves as a band.
So you're like Donnie and Marie kind of thing. Just say it. You're Donnie and Marie.
Wow, That has never a comparison that's ever been made.
Come
I'm
on.
deeply offended.
That's
Just
so
kidding. No,
good.
that's great.
So
Who's Johnny and who's Marie though? My
Right.
brother and I. I mean, that's what I want to know.
who so like you're down in Nashville. Like what's that like being down in Nashville? You're like in your 20s at this time?
Yeah, early 20s. Well, Nashville wasn't a bustling metropolis like it is today. It was up and coming for sure, but it was an established music industry. And honestly, I feel really fortunate, really not a popular word in Christian circles, but lucky, that we dodged a lot of the um, really negative aspects of being in the industry.
Mhm.
We had really great people. And I think even today, I still have friendships with a lot of people that are risen to the top of the food chain when it comes to record labels and execs and CEOs. But people specifically are a guy who really championed us early, a guy named Brad O'Donnell, who now is the head of Capital Christian Music in Nashville. Saw something like a calling our lives and heard our songs and saw our terrible live show back then and really believed that God wanted to use us for bigger things. And always that his mantra was, we promise less, but deliver more. We're with
Okay.
you guys for the long haul. We believe in God's call on your lives. And how he shaped you to be a voice for the church in Canada, the United States, and beyond. And having that sort of team behind us was such a blessing. All that said, the city, the industry can suck the life out of you. You have a purity of calling and an innocence and a passion for the will of the way of Jesus and just seeing the world transformed. And this is the small way that you can bring light and life into the world by writing these songs and that tell the truth and pastor rich theology and put it into 21st century pop song. God can use it. Your music can travel further than you ever can. Like, obviously we saw that, but there's also pressures to sell back then CDs, sell albums to, I mean, today it would be just to get streams to create content. And at some point it starts to feel like it's a watering down of what you feel called to deep in your soul. And you can start to feel like a cog in the wheel. You're in the machine of the industry where you're just like, do what you're told. You're the talent. Produce,
Right.
rather than what do you feel in your soul
Yeah.
like God has compels you or God has put on your heart to stay and to express to the world. What sort of beauty are you going to capture that points to the beauty of the creator?
Yeah.
So you people lose that a little bit and
Yeah.
eventually moved away from Nashville. But met my wife there, which is amazing.
What was she doing in
Uh,
Nashville? What's her thing?
He was a hairdresser in downtown at the time. I had some like Australian roommates that were like, "We're from Australia. We're live it up." So like they were just meeting people, doing everything all the time, out all the time. My wife and I both were not like that. But I ended up going with them, and she went with a friend that they knew, and we're both like sitting at the end of a table, like, this is not our scene. But she was from Minnesota,
Okay.
in Minneapolis, and I grew up in Winnipeg, so we sort of had that in common. We're like, man, I do miss the snow sometimes, but not the cold, you know?
That's true. Touche.
Nashville's quite a
Touche.
bit warmer. Yeah. But yeah, we stayed connected on that. We've been married now for almost 18 years. I have
18
three
years.
boys,
Right on.
15, 12, and 8 years old. So it's
Very good.
she says she feels like she lives in a frat house because they're really into basketball.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. But anyways, yes, Nashville is an interesting place, but a lot of great people there and a lot of creativity, which is and obviously it's a place that God has used to uh, facilitate a lot of really beautiful creativity in the church and otherwise. So
At what point did when did you and your brother kind of like, you know what? I think we've done enough of this. Like we're hanging out all the time doing songs, but I think it's time for me to do something a little bit different. Like, at what point were you guys ready for that?
yeah, so I think that ties into the last question. Just I think my first calling was to write songs for the church. Like there's no big booming voice and magical moment where that was God spoke to me necessarily, but I feel like I felt compelled and called to write songs for the church that the church could sing, that would bless and unify them posture and the power of the Spirit to transform and renew hearts and minds. Like
Yeah.
that was it. And our albums are schizophrenic. Like we made interesting rock songs, but like the common thread was like these songs of worship,
Yeah.
that churches all over the world picked up. And I think that at some point started to feel like we were just performing and entertaining,
Right.
and getting away from really leading.
Right.
Not in a huge dramatic way, just being in the industry. Inevitably, you play festivals. You're on in the middle of the afternoon. People are eating a piece of pizza, watching
Yeah.
you, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Let's worship," whatever. It
I got
starts to
pizza
feel a
stains,
little,
man. I got pizza stains.
yeah, totally. It's like, let's sing this worship song, and they're like, "I'm hungry. Um, I'm worshiping God by eating this delicious pizza." Anyways, which is great, but that's maybe not the best example. Maybe it was more just like we did a lot of youth conferences. We started to feel like we're Uncle Tim and Uncle John up there making the kids jump, or just
Yes.
starting to feel
Uncle
like,
Tim and Uncle
man, this
John.
isn't the most fulfilling
Yeah.
thing in the world. And felt a disconnect because you're gone on weekends all the time. You're
Yeah.
playing Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You're back for a few days, maybe in Nashville, and then you go out on weekends. A lot of that's kind of the
Okay.
rhythm of
Okay.
things.
Okay.
And to feel disconnected from the local church.
Yeah.
And feeling disconnected from the local church starts to feel like, well, what authority do we have to write songs to be a mouthpiece,
Right.
like that is creating and trying to channel the melodies of the Spirit for the church, and yet we're not rooted in one. So
Yeah.
at some point, my wife and I decided, we need, at least I've decided, I was like, I want to be sent. I want to be sent. I don't want to feel like a rogue agent. I want to be commissioned and sent by a church. I want to be rooted in a place, and I want to go out from there. So we had connected with a guy named John Mark Comer, who is a fairly well-known
Yep.
writer, Christian theologian, thinker, and teacher today. He was a big Starfield fan. He had us out to Portland a number of
Big
times.
Starfield fan. Yeah.
He was. And like they did a bunch of our songs at this church. And so they had us out to their young adult event called The Way in the maybe late 2008, maybe 2009. And we just loved what God was doing in that church. We loved the city. We loved this part of the world. We felt like maybe this is where God's calling us. So a few years later, we ended up moving here. I was part-time at one of their church plants, and I still travel. And also spoke for Compassion and a couple other organizations, Group the Hungry World Vision, and would travel. And then we were rooted in that local church, which was amazing. And then we've kind of been here ever since. And I've traveled a little bit less and less as my kids have grown up, which has been nice. And I've just sort of fallen into, or really grown into, a role as a worship pastor at a church now called 26 West, just in West Portland.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. I love just being connected to community. My kids are in the youth group.
So
It's
good.
a stability, and like for me, it feels like settling into a church after a lot of years of sort of feeling like we're serving the greater church.
Yeah.
It felt like that in our life. And
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying this season for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you bring back that initial reason for wanting to start the band with your brother, right? Because you want to bring, God's glory and all that stuff, and you're not performing. Like you're up there literally leading people in worship every Sunday and stuff. Like you're like the main worship guy there, eh? At your church. That's wild, man. It'd be so cool to be at a church. Like, yeah, play Starfield. Yeah, man. You might have heard my streams on Spotify.
Maybe it's people in their mid 40s that are like, I love Starfield, which is humbling. No one can stop time. Yeah, no, it's great.
So
I love all that. Like I hang with the youth sometimes, and like someone will bring it up, and they'll look it up. It's so funny. Like they've never heard of me or anybody that I knew of. It's like a complete generational.
Oh, it's great, man.
I get too busy listening to Forrest Frank or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But it's great. It's funny. Like back on that, just a quick story on that point. Because I love to share this. At Starfield, at some point, God's given us technology. He's given us lights and sound and instruments. And like, He's like, use it all for my glory. And there's that impossible to gaze line where you're like, you cross the threshold into, are we worshiping the gifts He's given? Or are we worshiping the giver of the gifts?
Oof.
Are
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
glorying in what we've created or what he's created us to do?
Yeah.
Or the beauty of his creation. So like
Yeah.
we had amazing production, lighting, sound, the words were moving on the screens, and we kept growing in that. And uh at some point the comments after concerts moved away from that was a beautiful time of worship. And I just really connected with the Holy Spirit, and I feel like he spoke to me, and it was so moving. And I feel encouraged and lifted up. It shifted from that to
I love it.
production.
Yeah. I love the hazer.
Lights were insane. I have never seen such cool whatever. You're like, huh, this is not what we wanted.
Yeah.
It was like, and so we stripped it all away. We never went back. We
Oh,
used
seriously?
like just mood lighting, back to simple lyrics. And we're like, no, we're worshiping. That's not to say people shouldn't put on amazing concerts. It's just for us as worship leaders, as people that feel compelled to like lead the church in worship. It was like, this is not it for
Okay.
us. We're missing it. And that's where church is on Sunday. It's like, there's that fine line of like, sure, we can use every technology available to us. But is it distractive? And are we having adventures and missing the point of worship, which is meant to be this simple, unifying expression of worship, adoration, surrender, and praise to the living God? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, this is definitely like a fine line. I think some people have to cross and understand like what's the purpose behind it and stuff like that, right? And I think you're seeing a big shift now, even when it comes to like liturgical stuff too. Like people, everything's being stripped back to like let's get right back to the bare bones of like what does it mean to do church? What does it mean to do worship? Because like I think there's just such a generation where it was the lights, it was the fog, it was everything. And up now you're finding like people like in their 20s are like, I don't want that. I just want to be like, I want to feel the spirit move. You know what I mean? And like, I don't want to be distracted by everything that's around me, but I do want, I want a moment. I want to feel the spirit. And sometimes you get distracted by everything that's happening around you. And you're seeing, I think anyway, when I'm looking around different churches and different things, like you're seeing people start to strip back but then you're seeing churches who were doing any of that stuff like 10 years ago. Now they're catching up, trying to do that stuff. And it's just interesting that the cycle that you'll find of that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's funny. And there's a pendulum swing, I think, generationally, or even like decade by decade. Yeah, it's hard to gauge. Like, I guess the proof is in the pudding, or like in the fruit of discipleship that's happening. It's like, I think what we're coming to realize as the creator church in the 21st century here now, the American, Canadian, North American church, I suppose, is that a Sunday service, a highly emotional, high production performance isn't enough to sustain a disciple of Jesus
Yeah. Yeah.
by
That's true.
itself. The emotional high, the TED Talk, the you can do it, God can help, pat on the back, isn't cutting it in daily life.
Yeah.
It's feels great on a Sunday and it's beautiful. And we should always celebrate the unity of the spirit and the saints in a place where we have this freedom to be together.
Yeah.
There's such joy in that.
Yeah.
But if it's not backed up with the disciplines of
Also true. Yeah.
commitment to the spirit of prayer, of accountability, of connection to other believers. And if it's lacking that authentic, deep faith, then it's noise. It's a clanging cymbal. It's a resounding gong. It's a stench in the nostrils of God. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll quit
Yeah.
tomorrow if you tell me I have to dance around and entertain consumer Christians. I just don't. I don't care. I want real. I want authentic, or I want nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the sentiment. Right now.
No, that's true. I would second that. From what I'm seeing and hearing and stuff, that's cool. So after you get married, you have kids, then when is like you're now doing compassion, right? Like you're a traveling compassion guy, like that's your thing? Or is that just part of what you do? Like how, like what is that like?
I'd actually, it is part of what I do. Yeah, and there's a number of things at this stage of life. It's funny, my wife and I we're like new realtors here in Portland. So like it feels like, oh, this is the first like real job I've pursued as well. But I'm full time of the church, so I'm kind of more helping her.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I'm also still passionate about seeing followers of Jesus, worship God, spirit and truth, and word and in deed, right? So,
Yeah.
like a full expression of what it means to worship God in spirit and truth is to lay your life down as a living sacrifice.
Mhm.
This is your spiritual act of worship. It's like, and that looks like so much more than what I was just tapping on. It's like so much more than a happy feeling that we get
Mhm.
being a part of a concert on the Sunday morning.
Right, right.
It's a life that's transformed. It's people that are radically generous and compassionate that leave the building on Sunday and are compelled to be more like Jesus and will live more like him, love more like him, be more generous. And so like child sponsorship and compassion, caring for the poor, something so close to the heart of Jesus.
Mhm.
It's such a natural overflow of what we do in a morning church service. Um, in that it's the fulfillment, like the completion of our worship is go and make disciples, go care for the poor and the widow, like go follow me in
Mhm.
word and in deed.
Yeah.
And child sponsorship is just beautiful. It's putting a face on poverty. It's like connecting yourself to another human being. You cannot solve all the problems of the world. You cannot
Mm.
solve all the wars and the famine and the poverty. But you can do one thing today. It's like
Mhm.
you can actually make a difference in the life of the child. And I've seen it. I've been all over the world. I've seen the work they do and I see how transformative it is. And it's hard not to feel like there's so much more. But it's
Mhm.
like, what are we called to?
Mhm.
Or are we called to just only do great things? No, we're called to do small things with great love. It's like, and that's it. So child sponsorship for me has always been just a really natural overflow of what it means to lead people in worship and like experience the presence of God together and be renewed and refined and realigned to his
Yeah.
will and his way. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, now what do we do? Let's do something. Let's
Yeah.
sponsor kids. And it's not the only way, but it's like
Yeah.
a great way. So I've worked with Food for the Hungry a lot over the years and World Vision, um, and Compassion. I This is actually fairly new for me. Only the last 2 or 3 years,
Okay.
I've been speaking with Compassion. Now, Compassion is very evangelistic in the sense that they care about not only physical but also spiritual poverty. So it's very much about partnering with local churches in the countries they work in and sharing the gospel, giving
Okay.
Bibles to children, which is a really holistic view of what it means to care for the poor. And I love that. So I'm passionate about that. It's a really easy uh, partnership for me. So
Yeah.
I'm passionate about worship. I'm passionate about a holistic expression of worship. So
Yeah. That's so cool, man. I love like we've had different people come in the past for different organizations, and we've had Compassion a couple times. So it'd be cool to have you come, and there's other times where you go all around. Like, where's the furthest you've gone? Like you're talking like you've gone all over the world dealing with this kind of like a Starfield and stuff like that. But like Compassion, like you've gone to different countries all around doing stuff like that.
I mean, in the field, I've been to Ethiopia a couple times, and to Uganda and Kenya. Where else? I had an opportunity to go to Cambodia and India, but I couldn't make those ones work for some reason. So it's mostly been sub-Saharan Africa,
Okay.
sort of the Horn of Africa, where you'll hear a lot about that area just because of so much poverty, and a lot of that's because of corrupt governments or age-old conflicts. They can't sort of get their act together, but the number
Yeah.
of those countries over the years has gotten better at partnering with
Okay.
NGOs, like organizations like World Vision, Food and Hungry, Compassion. We're seeing a lot of transformation. We're seeing the numbers that were in the 90s. Like it was, um, well, it's been basically the infant mortality rate, which is the number of children that die under the age of 3,
Mm.
globally has been cut in half since the early 90s. So it's like, obviously this is working, and
Obviously,
it's
yeah.
a lot of things, but um, it's people like me, people like you that sponsor kids, and this is what we can do,
Yeah.
and to like see his kingdom come is really done today here on earth as it is.
Yeah.
a really beautiful thing.
Very tangible.
You're
very
trusting was how far I traveled, and I went into some philosophical.
It's sir. Yeah, but let's go.
I like Uganda.
Yeah,
That
tell
was
me
a
exactly where you
one-word
went.
answer.
Yeah, very cool. How?
Rambling.
Yeah, no. Where do you see yourself and your family in like the next 5 years? What are you guys thinking? You look like someone who just has things planned out. You're like, this is where we gotta do to get here, to here, to
I'm
here.
not. I'm actually not. My wife is more than that, but you know, with all of the traveling I've done over the years, like I'll think I'll always be partnered with compassion.
Yeah.
I'm 43, so into my 60s or 70s, I hope. I think that's something that's just a calling and a passion in my heart. But I want to be rooted in the local church, dude.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I want to stay at the church I'm in for 10 years, 15 years.
That's so
We
good.
we're at a season in life where we um hopped around a little bit, like different communities, and we're we're learning as you do in life, as life progresses and you get older, that committing to things and to people, even though it's not easy and not always like this, it sometimes feels easier to run away. It's sort of like a marriage. It's like if it gets hard, it's like feels easier to run away. But you know what I mean? Like it's that covenant, that commitment, that like, no, I'm not going to give up on you. This is worth fighting for, and we're like at a season in life where we're recognizing that the power and the importance of that, and specifically in calling, just being committed to a group of people. Church is like 400 people, 450 maybe, and being in their lives, having their kids grow up together, having people truly know us is something really valuable. And so we're just like seeing such value and importance in being rooted. And that's not to say God doesn't call you to different things, and you can't really learn without failing or without going through seasons of desert seasons. I think we're in a good season right now, stability. That doesn't mean we have everything figured out, but it means that, well, we know what we're committed to.
No, that's so good, man. I love it. Like, it's just cool. I love like because I've done this to different people within the church, and it's been my favorite thing we've done as a church. Like just sitting down, having conversations, and just because it's very hard for me at times having like really deep conversation with people every single Sunday, right? Because we're just trying to touch people very quickly, and so like being able to sit down and like hear some stories like about their lives. I would never have had any idea about they used to like put labels on cans back when they were a teenager, or they were like a national swimming champion back when they were younger. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have no idea about those if it wasn't for having
I was a national swimming champion too. That's crazy.
Were you really?
No,
you got the hair. You got the hair for it.
Sure. I look like a surfer, but I'm terrified of surfing. So
makes sense. Makes sense. Well, man, listen, I appreciate you just coming on, man, just having a chat with me today, and just I love hearing your story, man. I know we just literally met like half hour ago, but it's cool to be able to sit down and to just hear about how God put such a passion in your heart for music and leading people in worship, and God take you down to Nashville and all across the world with your brother, and now doing Compassion. It's just really cool, man, to hear your story and how God's used you in many different ways, and how he's obviously not done with you, and he's gonna do some other crazy things, I'm sure, with you in your life, man. It's cool. It reminds us that every name has a story, and every story matters to God. And so your story, it matters, man. And I think it's a story that will continue to impact not just the mid 40-year-olds out there, but people of all generations of hearing God work through you, man.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Nate. Can I share a scripture real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah.
So that we don't get away from the actual word of God.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Just like rabbit trail, wherever.
Do it. Bring it
to be
on.
like,
Let's hear it.
well, this is a worship leader. This is a verse I always come back to. It's Hebrews 13:15 says, through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name. And do not forget to do good, share with others. For with such sacrifices, God is pleased. Our worship is to lift up a sacrifice with praise, the fruit of lips that profess his name, but then also to share and do good. And I love that as a holistic expression of what it means to worship, what it means to give your whole life to God, what it means to belong to a community, and to, from that place, bring light and life to the world around you.
Yeah. So good, man. I love it. Appreciate it. That's good. very practical. And so I appreciate it. You come off as a worship pastor more than anything else, man. It's a worship pastor like thing right there, man. Bring it in. You're good. All right, man. I'll catch you later. Thanks again for jumping in and having a conversation with us today.
Thanks so much.